Good afternoon, Michael Garcia with the Hispanic Vote. We're going to continue our series of interviews with elected officials, municipal leaders, and judges. And today we have the pleasure of having Circuit Court Judge Patti Henning here. Thank you, Judge.
My pleasure.
And the purpose of these interviews is really to talk about, see what the judges are up to, and obviously with during this coronavirus, how the court's adjusting. So, but before we get into those questions, we like to have the public get a little bit more information on the judge. So, Judge, would you please give us a little background? So I'm going to first start, are you married?
I am a widow.
Okay.
I have been a widow for the last 18 years. I was married to John Henning, who was an attorney here in Broward County with
Okay.
me, a wonderful gentleman.
Okay. Do you have any children?
Yes, I have 2 children. I have my daughter Elisa,
Okay.
who has a JD, PhD, and she is practicing immigration law here
Okay.
in town. And I have a son, David, who has a JD and a degree in urban planning, and he is doing consulting work in urban planning in North Carolina.
So 2 attorneys.
Yes.
Judge, are you originally from Florida, or you're a transplant, or?
No, I was born and bred in Miami Beach.
Oh, okay. So you're one of those, I think maybe I can now add that to like 6 people that I know that were born down here. How long have you been in Broward?
I came down to Broward at the end of 1977,
Okay,
so it's been about 44 years.
okay. What undergraduates, what school did you go to undergrad?
I went to Cornell University undergraduate. I got a degree in international relations.
That's in New York, right?
Yes, upstate New York.
Upstate.
Which is why I went, because I wanted to see snow.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Did at that time did Cornell have its campus in New York City, or it's always?
No, it was only in Ithaca at that time.
Okay, so upstate New York.
Yes.
And after that, what law school did you go
I
to?
went to the University of Florida.
Okay.
I worked a deal, so to speak, with my parents. I am number 3 of 6 children.
Okay.
And so what I asked my father and mother was if I could graduate early from Cornell and save a semester, could I use that money to go to law school? Because I
Okay.
really wanted to go to law school, and I knew there were siblings that needed to be educated behind me. And they said yes.
Okay.
And I graduated early, and I got into the University of Florida, and I completed my law school there.
So what year was that, Your Honor?
I went to law school in 74 to 76. I graduated in 76.
Okay, so I have an interesting question for you, because I just finished reading the book on Sandra Day O'Connor, which is talks about her being the first Supreme Court justice. And during the book I'm reading, and when she graduated law school, it took her almost 12 years to find a job because she was a woman. Did you experience that back then? Was that something that was still going on, or less?
No, it was there. That was not the problem that I had. I got a job with the Attorney General's office in Tallahassee.
Okay.
And I practiced criminal appeals. I was in the criminal appeals division. The problem that I had, that many women who were getting out of law school, and there were very few still graduating at that time. We still had shuffling that they would do when a woman walked into the classroom.
Okay.
You really needed to be on your game. You needed to know the law better. You needed to be able to argue it better. You needed to be able to show your strength as an attorney in order to be accepted. And there was various means of discrimination that were shown to us.
Okay, no, I just found it so interesting because she graduated, I think, first in her class at Stanford, I think she went to, and it took her 12 years to get a job. So okay.
But she showed them.
No, she showed them. No, she showed them. Exactly, she did show them. So how long so you were at the state doing appeals?
Yes.
Then after that, what did you do?
I got a job at the state attorney's office here in Broward County,
Okay,
and I was the chief of the appellate division
okay,
and handled the appeals here. And since I had just come from the Attorney General's office in Tallahassee, and they knew my work and my abilities, they let me handle many of the cases that ordinarily would have gone to the Attorney General's office. I kept in our office.
okay. How long have you been a judge?
I have been a judge for almost 40 years.
Wow. when you first started, was it circuit, county, where did you start?
My first term was as a county court judge.
Okay,
I served 4 years on the county bench, and then I became a circuit court judge, which I have been doing for the last 36 years.
back then when you were a county court judge, what courthouse was it? Because right now we have what, four courthouses,
Satellites.
right?
I was in some of the satellites
Okay.
at times, but I was at the main courthouse. And at that time, county court judges did everything. We did landlord-tenant, we did traffic infraction cases. I know they're being run at, some of them are being run at the satellites now, but that was one of the things that we did. We did small claims cases. We did cases under $15,000. They've just raised the jurisdiction to $30,000 for
Correct.
county court judges.
So please tell the public a little bit about the difference, and you just mentioned it, county versus circuit.
County court judges, their jurisdiction, the cases that they can hear, have a value of $30,000 or less. They also handle misdemeanor cases, which are the lesser crimes. They don't handle the felonies. That's basically, in a nutshell,
Of course.
county court judges. The circuit court judges handle everything of civil nature of $30,000 or more. They handle probate matters. They handle family matters. They handle criminal cases, felonies and above, all the different degrees of felonies that they have there. They handle complex cases. There's a general civil litigation division as well. And any other issues that come before a court. There's some special writs and stuff, but.
Yeah, that's for the nerdy attorneys.
That's what I like, you're right.
And especially the real nerdy attorney, because some other attorneys don't even know.
Right.
So, currently, your position, what do you handle now?
I handle the complex civil litigation division.
Okay.
That is a special division. And what it does is, most cases, when you go into court, we'll have one plaintiff, one person who's suing, and one defendant, the person who's being sued. And there's usually one or two issues in those cases. That's not the kind of case I handle. I handle one that have more plaintiffs or more defendants in the case. The issues can be more difficult. Usually you go into court, you explain the facts to the judge or the jury. There is law that is in existence that should be applied and will be applied to your case. That doesn't necessarily happen in my division. Sometimes there are very novel issues. There could be statutes that haven't been discussed before, haven't been ruled on before. There can be claims that haven't been made. There can be circumstances that have occurred in the community that have never taken place before. And they are lengthier cases. Also, the trials regular, it's not, but most trials take a couple of days to try. Mine usually can take up to a couple of weeks to longer.
Okay, because the issues and the parties all intertwine and they kind of overlay and things of that nature that create more complexity for a judge to ultimately kind of, weed out and figure out.
Right, and sometimes when the case gets filed or gets into court, you won't necessarily know that that's what kind of case it is, but if the judge realizes that it's a complex case, then it will get transferred into my division.
Is there anyone else in your division besides you? And I know, that's why I want to know if there are 2 or 3 judges or just you, Yana?
I do the tort cases.
Okay.
I do like the medical malpractice and products liability cases.
Okay.
There is a business section. Judge Tudor handles
Judge Tudor.
business
Okay,
section.
because I've been in front of Judge Tudor quite a few times. Okay. Let me ask you this. What's your docket like? How many cases do you have? That's a big thing that I like people to know how many cases judges have, because some people think, the judges, it's an easy gig, they get the ultimate say and it's, it's a cakewalk.
I have anywhere between 144 and 200 of the most difficult cases that exist. I know that the other divisions have far more cases than that, but they don't need the constant attention and preparation that these do. That's why this special division was made, and why I have been honored to be serving in it for about 10 years now.
So you and Judge Tudor handle the most complex cases that the circuit has, because that's what basically that kind of gets farted out, and
Correct.
so you handle the most complex, you and Judge Tudor. How has COVID affected your managing of these cases moving forward? Because obviously we're all used to going in front of the judge, and
Well,
you know, and more importantly, these complex cases, most of them end up in trial, or a bigger percentage go to trial because of the complexity of it. It's not easy to settle like some of the other cases.
well, the biggest problem is what you've just stated. You cannot get a jury right now. It is unsafe to bring the number of jurors into the courthouse and seat them appropriately for a trial. So that is one leg of the chair that's been cut out from under us,
Okay.
from all of us in the court system. But other than trials, the court system is doing a phenomenal job in resolving issues. Even in my division, I am able to move everything along because I can hear on Zoom, and you know, I can hear the motions, I have the arguments from the lawyers. I still get 4-inch notebooks with memoranda and law in the case in front of me to review. And so any issues that they have, if they have discovery, you know, if they're trying to get evidence or depositions from people, any of the difficulties that they have, we can work out. And we are able to keep the momentum going in the cases. So when we do get to be able to have jury trials, we should be able to pick up without any difficulty.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the court's doing for jury trials? If this continues to get extended, or are there any mechanisms, or what's going on with jury trials? Because that's really the biggest issue, is because ultimately if someone has to have a jury trial, we can't really do that through Zoom. So
Well, we're trying to work on it. Broward County started, the judges in Broward County, group of us, started attempting to figure out how we could try a Zoom trial, whether that would be possible. I also work with a national group of judges and lawyers with the Civil Jury Project, trying to determine whether and how we can run jury trials outside of the courthouse. The Chief Justice of
Judge Tudor?
No,
the
Florida Supreme Court
Uh-huh.
has just issued ruling, an order for there to be a possibility of there being trials of Zoom trials.
Okay.
Trying to see whether that can be accomplished and how it can be done. There are a lot of difficulties, as you can imagine, that come with that. Where would the jury be? Would they be at home with special computers to sit at? Would we be able to use hotels and the ballrooms that they have so we can have social distancing? How do we bring the jurors in? Will they be comfortable? How do we make sure that the jury won't look to others for answers?
Pull up a social, pull up their phone and start searching and
Right.
what have you.
How do we keep the jury interested and able to stay on a small screen for a certain period of time? So it's going to be difficult, but I think that it's going to be done. I've been very impressed with the way the judges and the lawyers are all willing to see how we are going to manage this. And you know, Mike, it's not only the pandemic that's the problem. Odds are we're gonna get hit with a hurricane. If not this year, then a few years, you know, somewhere.
Yes.
And this will allow us, now that we know how to do it, should allow us to pick it up immediately. It won't be like, I think it was Wilma when we were closed for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Do you think, my opinion is that I think the practice of law somewhat benefited from this because of the Zoom thing. Now everyone's kind of, the judges, the practitioners are all accustomed to this, and even the pro se individuals, some
Yeah.
judges think it's gonna be part of our life moving forward somehow. Obviously, we don't know to what extent. What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I think it'll make a big difference, and I think that it should. People who need to come to the courthouse, if they can come through a remote process like Zoom, why bother parking? Why have to fight coming into the building? The crowds that are there, the traffic to get to the courthouse, having to wait and not be able to do anything while you're waiting. You know, if you're in a Zoom hearing, and the one before you takes time, you can be on hold and doing your other work. Lawyers, I think, will find that they don't have to travel as much. They can do depositions via
Zoom.
via Zoom. And I think that's a big help for them. And clients certainly would like having the reduction in costs to them. And so there may be an increase in cases for attorneys because the cost of litigation can go down.
Okay.
So it's really a win-win. And the courts don't move very quickly, but we sure did with this. I'm very proud with the way the judiciaries, particularly in Broward County, has moved and how the attorneys have enabled it to move.
No, I think it's the silver lining for us, because I think, like you said, the courts are traditionally slow moving. They don't want to, but this forced everyone to adapt, and now everybody's like, this is not that bad.
If they can figure out the difficulties with the constitutional rights of criminal defendants, because you need the right to confront your accuser, you need to be able to have access and conversation with your attorney. If we get a way to work those out, that would be tremendous. But we're gonna start with civil cases and simpler civil cases to see how the matters come.
Yeah, I think in the simpler civil cases, I think this is a good thing, and then obviously over time, things can get adapted to maybe that level where it addresses those issues. Now, obviously, you said you've been on the bench for 40 years. Besides this Zoom, what's something that you've seen a difference when you first started as a judge and now?
The biggest difference that I've seen is the diversity on the bench.
Okay.
When I started in 1981, there were a handful of female judges.
Okay.
There were no Hispanics on the bench. I believe there had been one or two black judges.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody under the age of 40 that
Okay.
was on the bench. And today, obviously, there is tremendous diversity on the bench. There are Hispanic judges, there are black judges, there are Asian judges, there are gay judges, there are,
More women?
as I said, when I started, you could probably count on one hand. I think that there are over 40 women now, and I think that there are approximately a dozen Hispanic judges now on the bench.
Correct. I joke with some of my friends that I said we need more male judges back, because when you see the picture on the wall where all the women are sort of starting to take over, which is a good thing, but there's a lot more women judges than a few years ago, and I think that's a good trend.
Yes.
So yes, there's more diversity.
So that was one of the changes that I've seen. The other thing that I've seen is the diversity in the attorneys that have come into the court
Okay.
system. That's been terrific because they are able to come in with their clients and explain culture differences to the bench that might not otherwise know it, explain it to a jury if they happen to be in front of a jury. So that's another matter that's improved. There's now numerous types of specialty courts that
Okay.
certainly weren't there when I was
Okay.
there. We've got the
Drug court.
you have drug court, you have veterans court, you have community court,
The community.
you've got the family division court that started, and you've got my complex division that was not in existence when I took the bench.
Family court didn't exist back then either?
No, we all did, in a general civil jurisdiction division, we handled family along with other civil cases.
So you might handle civil, you're almost like a federal judge where you get a mixture of all, right? So you had civil, family, criminal. Was the criminal separate or
Criminal was separate.
okay, but
Criminal,
on
and
the,
I served my first 6 years on the circuit bench. I served on the criminal bench.
okay. So now the specialty courts. Okay. When do you think we'll get back into the courthouse? That's just, it's,
Within the last week,
mhm.
the chief justice Kennedy has told us, he set out a scheduling for 4 phases to get fully back into the courthouse.
Okay.
The second phase, right now it's that very few people are allowed in.
Mhm.
It will slowly, it depends on the rate of COVID and how it's going through the community, how we can test in the community. And each courthouse is going to have to make its own determination because every jurisdiction is different.
Okay.
What depends on what courtroom sizes you have and how many you have.
Yeah.
How many elevators you have in a building and how
Right.
long would it take to get,
Yes.
jurors up.
Yes.
So, I know that we are closed, for the month of May. We will probably be closed for the good part of June. They have said no jury trials at all before, the beginning of July, and I would hesitate to think that we're going to even have it then.
I don't think there are going to be any jury trials this year. In civil, it's going to be kind of difficult, I think.
They would probably have to be the study ones that we're looking at, and that would have to probably also be with the agreement of both all counsel.
Yes, all parties.
Yes.
Your Honor, we thank you for coming out. Is there anything you want to say to the public?
Well, I hope that they take the opportunity to come down to the courthouse
Okay.
when we're open. Do not come down there now. But you can watch some of the proceedings online now, so you have the ability to do that.
In civil?
Yeah, I think some of them are being YouTubed,
Okay.
so.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
So that you can get into and watch there. And know that the court is here to serve you for any of the difficulties that you face. That we are a fair, reasonable group of individuals that want to resolve the problems that you have in the best way that the community can. And it is a pleasure to be on the bench and serve them.
So you mentioned a few things regarding what you've seen the difference on the bench over your time here in Broward. Is there anything else that you've seen in your time here in Broward that's changed? Maybe that's not on the bench, that's affected the community?
Absolutely. I was here, I've seen Broward County grow.
Okay.
It is when I first came to Broward County, University Drive was the end of Broward County.
Yeah, I hear these stories from all.
Now it's the center of Broward County. And the growth in population, a great part of that was when Hurricane Andrew hit. And it particularly, as you know, I'm sure, hit very hard down in the South Miami area. And one of the benefits for Broward County was particularly the Hispanic communities literally took their insurance checks from the homes that were devastated down there and brought them to Broward County and bought neighborhoods so that they could keep their communities together. That enriched Broward County because there was culture that was new that came through. There were businesses that opened up. There was restaurants that came through and culture. On the bench, lawyers that had been practicing down in Miami came through. A tremendous amount of Hispanic attorneys at that point came through the Broward system. It was just a wonderful way to learn about the community. They also had changes in Broward because I remember when I had first gone on the bench, you would find if someone was coming into court that couldn't speak English, that was speaking Spanish perhaps, they would bring their children out of school and bring them to court to translate. Now we have interpreters not only for Spanish but for a multitude of languages that show the breadth of the community that we have. So that's been a good
So
change.
a lot more diversity in the county.
Yes, and you see it even in, you know, in decision makers in Broward County. The community has run for office, they've, school board seats, city councils, county commission. You know, there's a interest and a commitment to Broward County that makes it just a beautiful, diverse community that it wasn't, when I first came.
So out of the tragedy, a silver lining.
Yes.
So, well, thank you, Judge. We want to thank you for your service, for your 40 years of service as a judge, as a civil servant for the county. And thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
Anytime. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.